Hey, just a quick video just on conditioning beer in bottles. I found a couple of videos online about brewing in the winter months. Uh, so, if you understand how yeast works, it obviously loves that temperature, especially an ale yeast between that 18, 19 degrees and that 21, 20 degrees ish. So, when you when you bottle, you obviously prime those bottles with sugar. Um, so there's a bit of yeast still left in your wort or in your brew after you've bottled. So then that yeast obviously chews up that amount of sugar that's in the bottles and then carbonates the bottles. Over a couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. So what happens obviously in the winter months is it's too cold for that yeast to eat the sugar, so it goes dormant. So it sits in the bottle and does nothing. Obviously, summer months are fine because the temperature's a lot better. So a lot of people struggle with that notion, and they basically sit and have to wait for their bottles to mature or condition over months. So I found this solution online, which is basically using an old esky and an old heat belt or a set of old Christmas lights, not the LED ones because they don't get hot. And I'll show you what I mean, and I'll show you how it works. It's very, very simple. I've got a stout in there at the moment that's pretty much finished. I brewed that on, I think, the 15th of last month, so it's been in there. It's now what's the date today? It's probably the 13th of July, 2020. So it's been in there long enough, so I can probably put it on the shelf now, and it's carbonated enough. Anyway, I'll just show you quickly what I did and the solution I used to condition my bottles over the winter months. This esky, which has been sitting in my other shed for a long time, it's stainless steel. It's quite well made, but it was actually it was actually a prize that my wife won for me back when I was drinking this awful stuff. It's so sweet and rank and cheap, and yes, I've moved on. Anyway, by the by, I brewed this stout around about, you bottled it on the 15th of the 5th. There you go, 7%. It's just a simple Cooper's recipe of the month. It just sounded nice, and I thought, stuff it, I'll get it. I didn't have time to do the grains. Anyway, I won't make any excuses. So I wanted to condition it because it was starting to get pretty cold in the shed. So what I did originally, ages ago, was I had an old heat belt. Here, I'll show you. I'll just have to pull this out a bit. It's a bit heavy. So anyway, basically underneath here, it's very, very hard to see. I've got some old fridge shelves. Okay, so that sits off the floor a little bit. So underneath that is a heat belt. Okay, so all of my beer's sitting there. Obviously it's getting cold now, but what I've got is a very, very cheap temperature controller. Okay, and that has a sensor at the back or on the side there, and that goes inside the esky. As you can see, it goes all the way into there. Now the back of that is the heat belt. It's just a standard heat belt that you run around a fermenter just to keep it nice and toasty. I don't use them. I've got a fermenting fridge, but anyway, by the by, I had this one spare. So yeah, so what I've done is I've set that to 20 degrees. You see it's dropping now because I've got the door open. But basically that sits at 20 degrees in there through the winter months. So those bottles are ready now, but yeah, they sit in there nice and warm and toasty, and get conditioned over that period of time. I usually leave them between 3 and 4 weeks. This stout will probably mature on the shelf a bit more. So that pretty much just go on the shelf. I don't drink a lot of stout. I like a stout, but I don't drink a lot of it because it's very meaty and adds to my girth even more. But yeah, so it's simple as that. Heat belt sits underneath. Bottles don't directly sit on them. It's just using some old shelf. You can just see shelf wires there. Oh, it's a bit hard to see. Sorry, the light's terrible. But yeah, just some old shelf wires. I can fit pretty much a whole brew in there of these puppies, of the long necks. Just fits 30-ish. So yeah, that sits in there. It's very cheap to run. Obviously, being an esky, it's quite efficient. It's probably not as efficient as an old fridge or something, but instead of running a heat belt, you could run an old set of lights instead. So when it gets up to that 20 degrees, it turns off and just sits there for, maybe half an hour or whatever, and then turns on again to keep it warm at 20 degrees. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So these are ready to go on the shelf and drink later and put in the fridge even. Tastes quite nice. Yeah, so that's my simple solution. Like I said, it's not my original idea. I can't remember the brewer, but I'll put it down in the link, and you can see what he did. He keeps his brews in with some old Christmas lights, so that's where that came from. Like I said, these were just the things I had sitting around. Anyway, that's just a little tip if you want to use it, and yeah, hope it helps someone. All right, cheers.